What's up, guys? Coconut here with Utopia Games, bringing you another honest deck tech review. Today we're going to be looking at the Umbreon GX, a very hyped up card from the Sun and Moon set that everyone's been talking about and have been talking about since it first got spoiled in English. I played this deck at Anaheim Regionals actually just yesterday as of recording this video, and I think the overall thoughts of a lot of the people who were playing it, whether we were a bunch of scrubs or whether we were a bunch of pro players or whatever, is the deck, he's just not that good by himself. In fact, a lot of the GXs I just don't think are cutting it right now, considering, this is the first regionals that has been legal. There was 500 plus people there playing, and the only deck in top that had a GX was a Mega Mewtwo deck, and it only played one Umbreon and one Espeon. He did say it was a clutch on one of his games to help him win, but one GX card that's pretty underwhelming right now. I'll probably be using that word a lot this video, but let's just go ahead and go over the deck itself. This particular build is not the most optimal build out there. 100% going to tell you right now, this is definitely not the build a lot of people are using. It's got a good skeleton of it, so I'm just going to go ahead and use this as the overall deck list. But keep in mind that there are like 4 or 5 different versions out there, running energy removal, non-energy removal, Wobbuffet, Zoroark, stuff like that. There's a bunch of different ways to play this deck. This was the one that I happened to think was the most fun to play. So we're just going to go ahead and run with this one. So like I said, Umbreon GX, 200 hit points. For 1 energy, he does 30, and then you may switch him with one of your bench Pokemon, which is kind of cool. You don't have to switch all the time. 30 damage, not all that fantastic, but it's there if you need it. You can bounce into the Wobbuffet. Sometimes that helps to get rid of the abilities like the item locks or whatever might be happening. For 1 colorless and 2 dark, you're doing 90 damage and then 30 to the bench. That was one of the reasons everyone liked this a lot. First, Strafe reminds them a little bit of the old Donphan deck that was being played for a lot, and this next attack reminds people of the Darkrai EX, I believe, that did damage to the bench. Also, kind of trying to weaken up the bench so that it can come out and, whatever comes out, it can just start one-shotting those. And then for 1 dark and 1 colorless, it's Dark Call GX attack, ditches 2 energy anywhere on the board of your opponents, which isn't too bad all on its own, I suppose. One of the reasons that these evolutions are being played a ton is because of the EV itself. 60 hit points, basic, but when you attach an energy to it, you may go through your deck and pull out the evolution of that energy type. So for example, you put the Dark on there, you can put the Umbreon GX right on top of him. You put a Fire, you can go grab the Flareon in this deck, but this deck's generally only playing the Dark energy because you want to pull out the Umbreon GX hopefully first turn. This also plays 2 Shaymins. It played 1 of each of these just for type weakness. Hopefully, if you ran into Volcanion, you could play the Vaporeon, so now you're doing 180 damage. If you played against Grass, which was thought to be a heavy played deck this regionals, then the Flareon would come into effect and let you hit for weakness. The 2 Shaymins, of course, draw support. Everyone kind of plays those. The version I saw played 1 Baby Yveltal so that you can start powering up your stuff maybe mid-game when 1 or 2 of these got knocked out. Or you can power up the EX here. He was just in there for another attacker as far as I know. And to help against, I believe it's Glaceon is the one that does the evolution lock. Wobbuffet was in there. Sometimes I would strafe into him if I got item locked. He comes out. Now the the abilities just aren't working, so then you can start playing tools again and items and whatnot. I played the energy removal version, which plays 4 crushing hammers and 1 enhanced hammer, along with 1 flare grunt. I put in 2 team skull grunts because I thought they were super fun. I think I was just a little too hyped to try new cards. I wanted to do new things and not play the old archetypes that I've been playing for the last 6 months. So I was a little too hyped on the let's try new things train, along with a lot of other people. Anaheim's regionals proved to be that the meta hasn't really shaken up as much as everyone had hoped, or that a lot of these cards just haven't found their proper home yet, and I feel that that's how Umbreon is at the moment. But yeah, I did play the Enhanced Hammer. It plays 2 of the Nest Balls to let you get out the EVs or the Voltiles, basically. 1 Super Rod to get back in any of the guys you happen to need or energies you discarded early on in the game through maybe Professors or something. Obviously, 4 Trainer's Mails just to keep the deck consistent. 4 Ultra Balls, once again, just to keep the deck consistent. You're basically using them to search for Shamans, or sometimes if you needed the Flareon or Vaporeon for the typing. That's kind of what they're in there for. 4 Versus Seeker, very standard for every deck, honestly. 2 Parallel Cities, this was kind of an anti-meta call. Hopefully, if you ran into... it kind of helps against Volcanion. It kind of helps against quite a few different decks, but the main one that it was there to help against was the Rayquaza EX deck. Sorry, my brain's shutting down for a second. The Rayquaza deck for sure. The Mega Gardevoir deck, which is one of my personal favorites and what I probably should have played at Regionals. Just there to help shut their bench down a little bit. Anything else sometimes helps against Volcanion. But it was in there too, just to ditch their stadiums too. Sometimes you just need to do that. 2 Lysanders, pretty standard for most decks. 3 Ns, pretty standard for most decks. 4 Professors, which is also pretty standard for most decks. Like I said, I played 1 Team Flare Grunt. A lot of the Umbreon decks are using 1 Team Flare Grunt, whether you're using a full energy removal deck or one of the other versions. There's usually 1 Tech Flare Grunt in there for if you happen to use it, and then you can use his GX Dark Call, kind of ditch a couple energies in 1 turn. I personally put in the 2 Team Skull Grunts, probably a bad idea. When they worked, they worked. It was super cool. When they didn't, they're just trash to draw. Like I said, I think I was just kind of on the hype train, like, all right, sweet, new cards, let's go ahead and try new stuff. Maybe people aren't expecting it as much. At least that was the hope anyways. 2 Float Stones lets you bring back your Umbreons. Not your Umbreons, your Shamans, anything honestly that you just didn't want out at the time if it got Lysandered up and not knocked out. Sometimes you'd play an EV on the bench for whatever reason, I guess, and if it gets Lysandered up, it does have a true retreat cost, this new one. I generally wasn't playing an EV unless I could evolve it though, like that turn. But the 4 DCEs and then 6 of the Dark Energy, just as your 10 energy to get it going. So the idea behind the deck was hopefully open up an Eevee, have the Dark Energy in your hand. Hopefully you didn't have any Umbreons in your hand also, and then maybe a DCE, some supporters and whatnot, maybe a hammer or 2. So you'd go turn 1, Eevee, put a Dark Energy on there, go through your deck, grab Umbreon. Turn 2, you're dropping a DCE on there. He's good to go. He's 100% powered up. He can do his 90 damage, 30 to the bench. You can do his strafe attack if you wanted, or the Dark Call if you wanted, for just the 2 energies. So that's pretty cool. The fact that he evolves first turn, so you're ready to go turn 2, is also very cool. You don't have to wait that 1 turn like most other stage 1s. And then if you happen to be playing against the weakness types, these guys were fantastic, and you're hitting for 180. And that's where I think this deck kind of just starts to fall short. 90 damage is decent. It's a 2-hit KO on most EXs, most other cards that aren't GXs with the 200 hit points. So it's a 2-hit on most of those guys until all of a sudden you're running into Fighting Fury Belts or just GXs that just happen to have more hit points. When you ran into things that had more than 90 hit points, it was a pretty uphill battle. Even doing 30 to the bench and weakening up some of the guys didn't really seem to do too much. So you're doing 30 twice to something, so they'd have 60, and then you knock out there. Say you get lucky, you do a 2-hit knockout, so you've done 180 to the main, 60 to one of the bench guys. Sometimes they just bring that active guy up, and you're still having to do 2 attacks to fully knock it out. 60 damage didn't weaken a 180 hit point guy enough to get knocked out once. 60 damage doesn't weaken most things that have actually an actual amount of hit points. Even this 60 damage isn't enough to knock out the Voltol, especially if they put a Fury Belt on there. But even if they didn't, 6 damage plus 90 damage, all of a sudden you're only at 150, so it's still a 2-hit knockout. You could put the 60 damage on Shamans on the bench and hope that they don't get rid of them somehow. I mean, you can't play your Parallel City at that point, because then they'll just ditch that Shaman off the bench. So I'm not 100% sure I'm too sold on this 90 damage to the active and 30 damage to the bench, unless you're hitting for weakness. Once you're hitting for weakness, the 180 was knocking out most things in one hit. But with Mewtwo being so big, Mega Mewtwo was really big there. Turbo Dark was really big there. I want to say there was one Yveltal, Garbodor, top 8. What else? Gardevoir. Excuse me. None of these guys are hitting for weakness. Everyone really thought that there's going to be, or at least around our area, they thought there's going to be a lot of plant, a lot of the new water toolbox, a lot of just a bunch of different things. And what's popular and out there right now, he's not hitting for weakness with either of these. So once again, the deck just kind of didn't really seem to hit the mark that everyone was hoping to hit. So that's this deck build. Like I said, there's quite a few other deck builds. There's the Zoroark version, so you have another attacker. There's ones that played more evolutions with less energy removal. Let's see, what other versions did I see? There's another like 2 or 3 versions out there. I played the energy removal one. One of the problems with this deck too is once you missed your hammers, it was all bad. I played against a Greninja deck, and I was hitting every single hammer actually, which was pretty nice. I even used the Dark Call once to get rid of some of the benched energies. But late game, he just went Fisherman, get 4 of them back, did his thing, Verseeker, Fisherman. I think that's the problem with a lot of the decks. Even against I played against a Gardevoir EX, the Despair Ray version. I hit a lot with the hammers. I hit with the GX Call. I even hit a Skull Grunt once. And late game, it was just like, okay, cool, Super Rod. There's only like 10 cards left in the deck. Put 3 energies back in. Oh, what do you know? Draw an energy. Mega Turbos wreck that. There's just so much stuff to get energy back onto Pokemon or back into the deck so they can get right back into your hand that I'm not a big fan. I don't think this Dark Call is worth wasting a GX attack on. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes you do get lucky. I've played many games online where it basically went to, you hit a couple hammers, you Dark Call GX, and they've burned through like 4 Professors and Ends and just all sorts of cards. They have like 7 or 8 cards left in their deck while you're sitting with like 20. They've just burned through that many resources to try to get back to the energy they need. And then you hit your last Crushing Hammer and they're just sitting there not being able to attack. It happens enough that I thought it was going to work at regionals, but it didn't happen enough that it helped me even get anywhere, or even close to day 2, to be honest. So, would I suggest this deck to anyone? Probably not, but all right, let's just get into the final thoughts on this bad boy and the ratings on it. All right, so the overall fun, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. It just wasn't that fun. Honestly, you start hitting tails on your hammers a lot. Lame. The GX Call, very underwhelming. 90 damage to guys that have 200 hit points, 200 plus hit points because of Fury Belts. Everything about it is just underwhelming. As you can see on my final thoughts, everything's just underwhelming on it. Overall power, I gave it a 5. Like I said, the 90 sounds like a lot. Sounds like you're going to be 2-hit KOing a ton of things. You're 2-hitting basics. You're 2-shotting even the lower hit point EXs, or whatever. But all of a sudden, this thing has a Fighting Fury Belt on. It's got 210 hit points. You're not 2-shotting anything at that point. And the 30 damage just didn't seem to be doing anything at all. Like, it didn't matter. It might as well have said 90 damage to the active and 30 damage to nothing. Like, the people, they just didn't care. It never once has gotten me to the point where it made it a one-shot when they brought it up, which was kind of what a lot of people at least were telling me that it should be doing, especially at the regionals. I was talking to a couple of like pro players, just kind of asking them their thoughts on the thing, and they just said that they didn't care for it. They tested it a lot, and it was just like not good enough yet, which hopefully means that maybe it will be when the next set comes out or a couple sets down the road. As far as speed goes, it was very fast when it's set up right. You hit your EV first turn, you drop your Dark Energy on it, boom, you have an Umbreon. All right, cool. Next turn DCE, you're good to go. You can do his 90 damage. You can do the Dark Call. You can do the Strafe Attack. So you can get going by turn 2, which is very fast. And that's the hope, is that you just start hitting them with the 90-30s like ASAP, and you can get all those early prizes, but it just didn't seem to do it. All the other decks are just as fast too, I believe, so, whatever. Consistency, I gave it a 5 out of 10 for this particular version. I'm not 100% sure about the Zoroark version or any of the other ones. But this version, definitely 5 out of 10. You missed the tails on the hammers, game over. You might as well just scoop. They drop a couple Fighting Fury belts, game over. You can't hit for weakness. It was pretty easy to beat. Gardevoir GX, hit 2 shots this regardless of what you have. It doesn't matter. It doesn't need to ditch anything off the bench. 2-shot guaranteed. Turbo Darkrai was basically 2-shotting this thing. Even the Yveltal, I mean, you're giving them an extra 60 damage. They can generally Evil Ball and 2-shot this thing pretty easy with their 2 damage. That's 100 damage with your 3 energy on there and just 2 of their energy. 2-shot from him. So, I mean, you're getting 2-shot and you're not even 2-shotting half the stuff out there. It's just not going well. I've seen versions that play 1 to 3 Professor Kukuis for the extra 20 damage. Doesn't seem to matter, to be honest. Plus, you're only drawing 2 wastes of like your supporter turn. It just wasn't clutch enough for me to play it. Overall, it does give it a 24 out of 40, which I guess is technically a D score. So, I mean, there's that. Final thoughts. Once again, underwhelming damage. The GX attack is very underwhelming. There's just so many things to get energy back. It just didn't matter. I got Mega Turboed so many times against Mega Mewtwo, Mega Gardevoir. Any Mega deck was just like, oh, man, you got rid of my energy. Cool, let me go Professor. Draw an energy attach for my turn. Mega Turbo. Boom, I'm good to go. And it's just kind of like, all right, well, I didn't even do any damage that turn, and you just came back from it in 1 turn. I guess I lose. And apparently it's been getting, from what I was told by a lot of the people at the regionals, vendors, just a bunch of places and people I was talking to in general who play the game a lot and know a lot about the game and even a lot more than I do. They're just saying the results everywhere at their locals, at their league challenges and the league cups. That they're running and allowing Sun and Moon. It just wasn't putting out the results that they had wanted, and that everyone was super hyped up for. So I think at the end of the day that this card can be really good. He is one of my favorite. He's like probably top 2 favorite Pokemon in general, just from the game itself. But I just don't think he has a home right now in this format when everything's just 2-shotting him down. And he's having a hard time 2-shotting most of their things back. So, would I buy this deck or trade for these cards? Again, probably not. I mean, I might just keep 1 or 2 just because he's my favorite Pokemon, and I hope one day in the future I can play him. But the regular one, I think the regular one's at like $6 or $8 right now. So, I mean, even if you decided to build a deck, you're not spending a ton of money to get them back. But playing this deck, definitely just play it online for fun, just because you want to try something new. Or maybe you're the one that's going to end up breaking the format with this deck and making it good. I would really love to see this guy get the love and attention it deserves, and hopefully the top tier status that I think it could be in the future, or maybe even after rotation, who knows. But for now, I definitely would not play this deck at any regionals. The Anaheim results definitely showed that. There weren't even any in top 32 or even day 2 as far as I know. We'll see as the weeks go on with some of the more other regionals or bigger events happening if anyone figures something out for this deck. But for now, I'd definitely stick away from it. Don't waste your money on it. If you're already on the cards, feel free to build it for fun. Play it at locals only. I wouldn't even play it at League Cups, to be honest, or League Challenges, because most people are bringing their top tier decks, and this thing just can't really do anything about it. So online and locals only. For fun, you just kind of want to switch up and not play something you've been playing every week. Definitely do that. But other than that, I'd just kind of stick away from it. So that's my overall thoughts. My personal opinion on that. Disclaimer, obviously, this is my personal opinion, and I'm not the most pro player ever. But I am just trying to give you guys an honest review on whether I think these cards are worth picking up or not. I know a lot of guys out there just can't afford decks all the time or constantly switching decks. So when you do save up your money and you are spending your money on a specific card to start building a deck, you want to see a deck that's going to give you results in the end, so that maybe you can win packs from your league challenges, you can win from your tournaments, and you can kind of start recouping that cost back. And I just definitely don't see this guy doing that, especially when you're out online and you're on YouTube and you're looking at videos galore of, Umbreon GX, this card's so awesome, this deck's great. There's so many YouTubers out there who build these decks and they don't tell you how they actually are. So that's one of the reasons I do make these videos. Hopefully you guys can get a little bit of honest opinion on these cards, whether my opinion is the best one out there or not. I definitely have at least a decent amount of experience with the decks I play. Most of the decks I have at least 50 games plus online, along with probably a good couple weeks of play at our shop too. And plus I just talk to a lot of people who are actually good at the game too, and get their opinions. So hopefully this will save you some money. Don't get it unless you're just a big fan of Umbreon and you just want to play something different at your locals. But yeah, there you go. This is Coconut signing out. Thanks for stopping by. Hit that like, comment, and subscribe, please. And just let me know what you thought of Umbreon for yourself too. All right, have a good one, guys.